Hey guys, time for another talk, but before I get started, I want to acknowledge and celebrate hitting 25,000 subscribers here at the An Ear from In channel. A really big, sincere thanks to all of you for making that happen. Interestingly, we hit the 25K mark much quicker than expected, thanks to one of my other older videos going moderately viral in the last couple of weeks. The Real Reasons Not to Get Married, linked in the low bar, must have hit the YouTube recommended videos feed or something because the views are streaming in at a high rate, and so are the new subscribers. And so are some pissed off women in white knights, by the way. The new comments alone are worth a future talk, which I will do in the next couple of weeks. The really good news here is that the upvote to downvote ratio, which I assume is from a largely mainstream audience, is 10-1 in favor of the message. I think the worm is turning, folks, at least based on that little anecdote. Sadly, now that I've pointed to something positive, I have to call your attention to something else. What you are seeing on your screen now is not from The Onion. It's not a Poe, and it's not a parody. It is a serious website put out by mental health professionals. You can just try to imagine the 4 million point bold font scare quotes that I put around the words mental health professionals, but even if you do, it won't shield you from the nausea and even perhaps the homicidal rage you might understandably feel reading through what's presented there. This is literally the sickest, most pathogenic example of mental health practice I have ever seen. In a perfect or even a remotely reasonable world, the people behind this shit would be stripped of their professional licensing and incarcerated, as much for their own protection as for punishment. In fact, my personal reaction to it was so strong that we're all better off if I don't go into it here. Suffice it to say that this website, mascupathy.org, is the most morally bankrupt cesspool of child abuse promotion I've ever seen in my life. I put it right on par with the North American Man-Boy Love Association, and even more sinister. After all, NAMBLA isn't passing itself off as a mental health provider. They are upfront about furthering advocacy for pedophilia and pederasty. Mascupathy.org, on the other hand, is a snake oil vendor of the worst kind, targeting children and adults with a profoundly shaming, destructive form of brainwashing. Let's examine what they have to say about this mascupathy, an imaginary clinical diagnosis they created for political and financial reasons. This is from their What is Mascupathy page. Their preamble, and I quote, says, "Men often behave badly. Some are grandiose and aggressive. Many others are worthy and admirable, but often emotionally absent and relationally disappointing. Virtually all men struggle to some degree with mascupathy, a pathology of masculinity, which erodes balanced and healthy humanity. The Institute for the Prevention of Treatment of Mascupathy provides education to help boys avoid mascupathy, therapy for men to recover, and advocacy for a more egalitarian society." Unquote. And their actual definition reads in part as follows. Mascupathy is a mental health disorder, a pathology of masculinity stemming from a socialized exaggeration of genetic masculine traits, aggression and invulnerability, and a reduction of inherent feminine characteristics, openness, and sensitivity. You can go through the link in the low bar to read the rest if you like. You will find more of what I just read you. Vicious stereotyping of men and masculinity thinly veiled behind clinical-sounding language. You'll read a constant drumbeat of male bashing paired with a stated objective to mold the minds of young boys and men into their politically correct, self-hating model. There's one thing you won't find on the website, though: research. There is not a shred of it, not a single study, Not a single source or reference save the books they are selling in their online store. Their store is a hoot, by the way. For $95 a half hour, you can call in and get your masculinity re-engineered according to their tastes. But before you do, you might want to consider that they actually have the temerity to say something like mascupathy is a mental disorder, when in fact, that's a provable lie. There is no mascupathy in the DSM-5, nor is there anything like it. They do acknowledge in passing that their claim is false, rationalizing it as follows, and I quote, "While not included in the American Psychiatric Association's compilation of disorders because it's so common it seems normal, that's just the way guys are, mascupathy is far and away the most destructive pathology in relationships and society today." Unquote. In other words, this small group of booksellers is asserting that the most destructive form of psychopathology ever known to humankind has been completely missed by 140 years of psychological research. Furthermore, the severity of this newfound disorder is so severe and pervasive that they can not only not conduct, but they can't even wait for a shred of scholarly investigation to support its existence. They must bypass all scientific rigor and proceed full steam ahead by treating children for a disease that only they can see. So who are these unsung pioneers of mental health treatment that have so far eluded being placed alongside the ranks of the great founding fathers of psychology? It appears there are two co-founders of the very prestigious-sounding Institute for the Prevention and Treatment of Mascupathy. One is Charlie Donaldson. Donaldson is an LLP, or limited licensed psychologist, which means that he has to practice under the direct supervision of a real psychologist. In my admittedly cursory search, I could not find his name associated with any psychological research at all. Now, I have to ask, since there's no evidence of an actual licensed psychologist signing on to Donaldson's unilateral declaration of the most destructive pathology in relationships in society today, under what auspices does he make his claims? Could it be from his other co-founder, Randy Flood? Not likely, as Flood, no relation to Michael, I'm sure, also holds the equally limited position of a limited licensed psychologist. Nope, it appears that the staggering new discovery was made without the requisite supervision, not that it has stopped them from peddling it on the internet. I also note that while they have a website and a Facebook page, I could not find a physical address for the institute which they claim is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Could it be that the lauded institute is just comprised of a couple of trainees and a 900 number? I'll let you decide, but there's another part of this snake oil operation that I could not help but notice. They seem to take issue with how unfair the psychological community has been to the poor, misunderstood personality disorders like borderlines. It is clear, reading in one of their blog posts, linked in the low bar, that they want the establishment to change and to quit stigmatizing these downtrodden little snowflakes just because they have the tendency to bring ruin to the lives of anyone close to them. They seem particularly concerned with this area of modern psychology. Well, that and their even more intense concern about boys and men acting like boys and men. It leaves me with the nagging question: why this combination? Demonizing men and rescuing borderline women. That seems like a little more than coincidence when it comes to their focus. Look, folks, it's tempting to just see this as funny, and it certainly is. Made-up pathologies that were fabricated for the sole purpose of selling books and phone therapy. Damseling borderlines who obviously have so much expertise in damseling that they hardly need any assistance from quasi-psychologists. But this is actually not funny. This so-called institute has a transparent agenda to demonize men and to appeal to the very population of mentally ill women most prone to find that demonization appealing. They are on a path to not only harm men and boys themselves, but to weaponize the population of women already most skilled at doing the same thing. And they want to carry this work into the lives of our male children. This isn't funny at all, not even for the darkest sense of humor. This is sickness, a disease. Just like feminism, it is a cancer on our society. And that is all I have to say.